I'd like to introduce Edward Farrell, who is going to take us through noobing my way through circuit board design. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Edward.
Good morning and welcome to BSides, and thank you for coming to the second talk here in the off-main track. So my talk today, moving my way through circuit board design, it was something I started jumping into at the start of the year. I'll go through a bit of the journey of that. Just as I was writing this story, it really turned into something a little bit different. Just show of hands for who here, who has this as their first BSides? Yeah, awesome. Look, I guess probably the big takeaway, I had this sizable resume, my cabinets might smell of rich mahogany. I have no idea what I'm doing. So I think for me, this talk started turning into a piece on, here's a little journey I've gone through, as much as it is of, hey, here's some cool techie stuff. But I think for me, having had my first conference like this some 20 years ago, it's important just to have in the back of your head, you're not going to know everything. You're going to go through this journey of making mistakes. If you're going into the CTF at some time over the next 3 days, you're going to stuff up. You're going to make mistakes. There's nothing wrong with that. I think one of the worst things our education system has done is gone through, hey, you need to adhere to a standardized test. And if you don't meet this numerical measurement, you're an idiot. Quite frankly, park all of that aside. Because I'd say, learning is more about, hey, how do we break through things? So with no experience, and with me kind of sometimes being a little bit like a 6-year-old on red cordial, I bounced around things in a domain where I'd say there's probably a bit of a need for focus and fastidiousness. So why did I start doing this? Well, I'll go through the path a little bit later, but as I got to the end, I started to ask my question, why did I waste so much time? And I think some of that answer started to become quite self-evident. I think one of the biggest issues we have in Australia is that we don't have enough people building things and doing cool stuff, whether that's in trades or whether that's in technology. I think a lot of, who here works in industry more broadly? Just a few of you who would agree with the analogy that instead of 8 rowers, so if you know rowing, 8 rowers, 1 coxswain, we've actually probably got about 8 coxswains and 1 rowers in a lot of companies, where there's not enough people doing things. And I think just doing stuff is important, not only for actually achieving an outcome, but also for us as human beings. Building, we build things. It's also a new skill to learn. You'll see some of the cool stuff that's out there. Also, something I would encourage many of you to have on your journey as you start going through your careers, for those of you who, hey, I'm just getting into it, have something on the side that is kind of like work, that isn't work, that is just something that you do yourself. And this being so separate to what I would do was just one of those things. And I've got a few things I'm looking to build. I also went through some really weird and wonderful discoveries that also educate and inform me on things. I guess something as well to be mindful of, and having talked through some of the cool stuff I've been doing here, just be mindful. You're not going to sell a company for $100 million because you've built something. And if you go into it with that mindset, you're going to set yourself up for failure. And the same with trying to build things for the sake of building them, or, hey, this is going to be commercially awesome and, I'm going to be a crypto millionaire. I think there's a lot of attitude and ethos in this world where people are going down that path and it's just creating disasters. So where did a lot of this start, or where did I get the motive? I guess I've probably got some of my slides, in and out of order a little bit. If you've ever done a Teams call with me, you'll see this wall of badges like this that I just apply a bit of Velcro on, stick them to the wall, and it's just a cool little background to remind you of the cool times that you actually have at events like this. But also I came across this device, which was an implant for a USB implant, which you'd put in line with a keyboard that would allow you to either inject, sniff, or exfil data over a keyboard. I'm like, this is actually kind of cool. So I started playing with this project, got a couple of these printed. I'm like, hey, I could probably do some of this myself. But I guess probably even before that, there's been a whole heap of things that I've been playing with. If you've studied in my postgrad lab at ADFA, I've built a USB micro. I've built a bunch of control features using ESP32s. Unfortunately, that lab's been decommissioned, but the idea was I needed something to simulate behavior in an IoT environment, and to generate that control, I just had a bunch of Arduinos that would facilitate it. But even before that, I was building Raspberry Pis and other tools to facilitate a lot of our pen tests. You'll also see up top there a USB Arduino Leonardo, also a bad USB. You can pick these up for about $595 out of a couple of sites in China. Picked up 100 of them, put them. I decided to throw. This was an experiment we did in 2017, put about 100 of them between Sydney and Canberra. Getting a phone call from a certain agency in Canberra after your sixth martini in DEF CON is an interesting experience, especially when someone's advisor is next to you. That's another funny story. But then this also eventually went into the ADF Cyber Skills Challenge, which was running off these ESP32s that was creating a bunch of Bluetooth wireless challenges. I also got one of the GPIO pins modulating AM radio. So you'd actually have an AM radio station coming off this, which was kind of cool. So I kind of parked things off to the side there. COVID also hit, so I had other focuses. Was also finding myself doing a little bit more in the wireless space. And also I ended up building the BSides 2023 wireless CTF as well. So these are just all little things that built into this bigger thing. I'm like, there's got to be more to do. So at the start of this year, I said, okay, look, I had fun with that USB tool, but something wasn't right. I couldn't quite get it working. There's going to be other cool things there. I also started doing LoRa in 2021. I'm like, okay, can I build some really cool boards off the back of that? And what are some cool fun and control things I can do? So, look, if you're looking to get started, these sort of Dick Smith style kits that you can now get at JCar are actually a really good place to start playing with. And there's also plenty of tutorials on YouTube, but I think some of the structured stuff that you get out of JCar is actually a really good start. I would say I probably didn't spend enough time with these and going into a little bit more of the theory. I think I probably jumped a little bit too far ahead. And for a lot of projects, so the projects I was talking about, 2017 to 2020, some of this kit was really all I needed. But this did start to evolve over time. And then there's also a really strong community in the US, the badge creators for DEF CON. They've also got some really cool write-ups of some of the hardware they've built as well. Getting familiar with the Arduino environment and building pieces as well is also important. So the ADF Cyber Skills Challenge, the BSides Wireless Challenge from 2023, the USBs I was talking about, all had some element of, all were using Arduinos, which if you look at the code behind them, it's a little bit more routine than what you'd have with, say, a little bit more smarts and processing. So doing that read up and getting that inspiration is actually kind of your first point to start building things. So after you start playing with a few bits and pieces, you can start doing a couple of bits of design. And look, my first point here with designing is actually start off with pen and paper. Actually, what is it that you want to achieve and what's the outcome you want to get to? In terms of your actual design tools, I've been using Easy EDA, which has been pretty straightforward. You've also got the back-end component library, which has a whole heap of bits and pieces, and then a really easy sort of to use interface. And I'll if I get a bit of time, I should be able to show you some of that shortly. So, you know, after you start going through this, ideally you'll work out what you want to do. You'll have your components, and then you'll want to actually have your schematic lined up. So you'll see here, this is a very basic schematic for effectively a light, for a light on a PCB. It's actually kind of the hello world of, like, for me, this was my hello world experiment, which allowed me to just build a really cool little PCB we could hand out for conferences. So after you build out your schematic and it all makes sense and it all ties in, you'd lay it out onto your board, you'd send it to your manufacturer, something, profit. So what are some of the cool things that I've been working on? As I said, I've just been doing just some really basic stuff with simple light circuits to sort of build myself into things. And that's slowly starting to build into even bigger boards. So this is a personal project I've been working on for the last few weeks for the Army Corps of Signals. The board on the center here is just a simple light show, but as you move further to the left, I've actually got an ESP32 with an SD card, a LoRa interface. The power side of this thing has actually been bugging me, and this was off my first board. Unfortunately, it hasn't powered on. Well, not that it hasn't powered on, but the power is really unstable, where it glitches and it just messes around. So it looks like I've kind of stuffed up with the battery and USB interface. I've also had another issue with some of my other boards on that as well, which I'll go through in a sec. But very simple ones such as the two up the front here with the blinding lights are fairly straightforward and fairly easy. I'll go through some of my mistakes with those boards shortly. So one of the other pitfalls I actually had in my early stage was seeing how I would, and this was a massive learning lesson for me because I went down this AI slop black hole for about 6 weeks. This is the board that I built with AI, and the entire power function on it is completely screwed. And it was fascinating because I was trying to go, hey, have I done this right? I don't know what I'm doing here. And it's like, well, have you tried adding this component? Have you tried adding this component? And so what ended up happening was, AI is like Mr. Mises. It's trying to be helpful and it just keeps adding out. And so it went full Mr. Mises and just went completely crazy and just kind of overloaded this board. And so this board I keep there as a bit of a mistake. And I think this was one of my big learning lessons around artificial intelligence. What was really good and how I really made use of it was actually identifying components to achieve an effect. I could also use it just to bounce ideas within reason. I think the thing to remember whenever you're using artificial intelligence on any project is you're in control. And I think this is one of the problems that we often see, whether it's using AI to train you for getting off meth and then saying, yes, you should reward yourself with some meth. True story, but I think this is just one of these fascinating journeys, especially going through new discovery of, hey, how can I use AI? And for me, this was one of the learning lessons and a massive eureka moment of, actually, AI is good when you have some back-end data, like, hey, here are the parameters I need for my components. Look at all these PDFs with the specifications for these components. What's the most appropriate? And that can help you with your research and save you tons of hours. But expecting it to do things like business logic is a little bit harder. I think I've probably relied on it too much for battery and power management. And for me, this was one of my big, okay, I've stuffed up here. I need to go away and learn. And so, if anyone's worried AI is going to take your job, it's not. I think for me, this is going to turn into a wider didactic of, hey, AI is not going to steal our job, but we can certainly use it within reason. So, what are some of my stuff ups? Power planning was a big one. So you saw on probably 2 of the boards before where it looks like power management is just something that, hey, I screwed this up. And I've got to sort of have that sort of self-realization of, okay, here's something that I could do better. And I can go through that reflection. Component selection is also another one, and making sure it lines up properly. Getting layouts wrong in terms of just putting everything everywhere and in the right spot. I'm still trying to troubleshoot this one. So these are a set of ESP32 boards that I'm building out and doing weird and wonderful connections with other components. So this is actually, I think, probably the big thing that I should have done early on, which is, okay, let's build the basis of my wider circuit boards. I'm using USB-C to control an ESP32, and then there's going to be a bunch of points that I'm actually going to connect to. So I was able to just build a very basic board for prototyping for that. And so in doing so, this just created a smaller surface for me to manage, and I could actually start working through things. So just doing a basic build like this, if you are going to go from your hello world with your light up to this, or even an intermediary case with something such as the BSides badge, starting small and keeping it easy is a good idea. Now, there's a piece I'm still trying to troubleshoot with this one. So if you look at USB, you've got 5 volt. You need to drop this down to 3.3 volt. I've been using the breadboard to achieve that. So there's a point from USB-C down to where I'm dropping the power where something's going wrong. And I don't quite know. I'm pretty sure it's the component I've selected, but I've actually got to go through a process of troubleshooting that. And so revisiting and relearning how to do troubleshooting has been a really big one. Colors and lights. So if you have a look at the board over here, I've actually got 2 different light patterns that I'm still working through. And I'm the guy that has 89 black t-shirts and now 3 Hawaiian shirts because of new corporate attire we just purchased. I have no style and no concept of light and design. So I'm still trying to work through that, and I've realized that's probably a bit of a weakness. I'm going to probably ask for a bit of help on that, but I've got lights that are actually pointing to a part of the board which will actually shine through and create a really cool light effect. But as I said in my first slide, I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to get a bit more advice on that and think through it. Also, attention to detail. So this board over here was completely, the one in the center was completely functional. The problem is, though, the components got printed onto the board facing the wrong direction. So that was a big attention to detail thing for me. And as I said, this is about your own self-discovery and your own learning. The fact that I didn't point them in the right direction just meant, yeah, okay, I kind of stuffed up here. So just having that attention to detail and using that as your own reflection point is important. If this is a place you're going into, start small. Do like just really cool little projects. Don't get disheartened. Just be mindful. Some of the circuit boards that you might be printing will actually may cost a lot if you don't have the resources. It can turn into an expensive exercise. Small things are just as fun and easy to play with. There's a couple, as I said, there's a few projects there that I'm working on. There's other ones I'm looking to expand into, but I want to get these couple working so that I'm like, yep, cool, I'm comfortable, and I'm going on this journey of just learning and having fun, and that's what a lot of it's about. Probably my last point here is one of digital junk. I've probably done about 5 different prints, and some of the hardware just doesn't work. For me, there's like, yeah, I've got a lot of crap that I now need to send off to metal recyclers that it's a little expensive, and so I think this is also probably a wider issue we have within the technology community of, we're creating a lot of hardware, and that's also probably been something that's hit me quite hard. But yeah, that's a cool couple of projects. How much time do we have? Not really enough. All right, look, I'm floating around for a little while. Otherwise, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on email. If you want to just jam on any of this stuff, hit me up over Google Meets, Team Meets. Just grab my email. Happy to hang out and even just take you through some of the cool things I'm doing. That's it for me. Thank you.